look myself in the mirror and accept that if you weren't a racist, you condone what a racist did. So that's, to me, the same thing. It's the same thing. So
I agree with you completely.
Sounds to really make you rub and scrub. Swang badang badang bong biddly biddly bong. Bong biddly 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 bong. I said, pass the dutchie on the left hand side. Pass the dutchie on the left hand side. It a go bun.
Anthony, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invite.
I appreciate it.
You got a big show. You got a big following. So God bless you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Both of you, welcome to the show. I greatly appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, and good morning.
The floor is yours.
Whatever it is, it'll keep till the morning. Haven't we both got better things to do? Midnight blue.
I'm on your side, I still care. I may have died, but I've gone nowhere. Just think of me, I'll be there. Just think of me, I'll be there. There you go. Bit rusty.
Oh. You know what? I gotta tell you, usually I make my guests get a little emotional if I find something that touches them. You got me this time. So viewers, you're always telling me you got this one emotional. That got me emotional. I had to wipe my eyes.
No.
Since you told me you've seen some of the shows already, welcome, Johnny, of course. You know the running joke on my show is, because you're 6 hours ahead of me,
Oh, yeah.
I need the lottery numbers.
What do
But
you mean? These ones?
there you go. I love it.
I'm
There
one
you
step
go.
ahead of you, man.
Hey, folks, it's the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing. Forget about it, Bad Brad Berkwitt. And you're watching another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. And hit that button, as I always say, in that corner or that corner, and subscribe. Leave your comments below. I greatly appreciate all of my new subscribers. I really, really do, from around the world. Thank you so much. As well, follow me on Twitter at BadBradRSR. That's again at BadBradRSR. Well, folks, today we're going down south, okay? But we're staying in the United States. And we were down south yesterday, too. We were in Louisiana yesterday, Rob Anderson. Now we're going down south again. My guest is a multi-talented singer, songwriter, stage performer, actress. She's hilarious. And even on top of all that, she's a beautiful human being and a humanitarian, which we're going to get into. She's also the younger sister of the iconic Dolly Parton. And her sense of humor is a lot like Dolly's, and you're going to see it today on my show. So without further ado, please welcome the one, the only, Stella Parton. Forget about it. Well, first of all, good afternoon to you, Stella.
Good afternoon to you, Brad. It's so good to be on your show.
Thank you, and it's an honor to talk to you today. I appreciate you coming on. You look great. I like the background. I always look at the background. I like
Thank
the
you.
poster. I like the guitars. I like the jewelry. I like what you had on the wrist. That's nice.
Woo, ooh, ooh.
Yeah, Deb's gonna like the bling.
I love the bling, and this is my little music corner.
Okay. Well, hey, what I want to do is start out at the beginning, and we'll have a middle, we'll have an end. But I always ask all my guests coming on, because of what's going on in the world right now with COVID. I know you're down in Tennessee. How are the cases? How are you doing? How are you, figuring out ways to be safe and all that? Let's start out like that.
Okay, that's fine. You just feel free to ask me anything. I've been doing this so long. If I don't know how to do it by now, I'm never going to learn.
I already love you. Go ahead.
Just be comfortable.
Okay, absolutely. So tell me about COVID.
Well, COVID to me is probably as sorrowful and as much loss as we've had. It's a great opportunity for us to reset as humanity and to try to find a way individually, personally, and collectively to be better than we've been before COVID.
Okay. Are they adhering as far as people in Tennessee to the mask and all that? Or are they starting to swear?
It's the same, I guess, everywhere. I have a problem with people saying, well, it's people in the South, it's people, like Southern people are the only ones that are irreverent and do things wrong. You're going to have people that are going to be anti-vaxxers and this and that everywhere. But most of the people that I've seen have been, adhering to the mask mandates. And now Tennessee is no longer under that. And so I'm hoping that we won't have a surge. That's all we can hope for. And I'm just happy that I have both my vaccines now. I had the other one this week. And so I'm happy about that. I didn't have any reaction or anything. So I'm grateful. And I just want everybody to be vaccinated that wants to be vaccinated so we can get back to some sort of active, normal life, and people won't have an excuse to isolate like they are having to do now.
Okay. All right. Looking at your bio, it looks like you were born in, if I pronounce it wrong, let me know. Is it Sayreville? Is that how you say it?
No, it's Sevierville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And it's named for John Sevier, who was a governor. And I think he was from Texas, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, John Sevier. So it's Sevierville, Sevierville.
There you go. What was it like growing up there?
Well, it was fine to me. I mean, I didn't grow up with any great trauma or anything. I mean, people talk about their childhoods and how traumatic they were and all that stuff. But for me, I was healthy. My siblings were all healthy. We didn't have a bunch of trauma. We played outside all the time. We had parents that were consistent, loving, and, took care of us the best they could. And you don't have anything else to compare it to. I think it was probably one of the most wholesome ways for anyone to grow up, because we had the freedom to use our imagination, because we didn't have all the technology and TV. We didn't have TV. We didn't have telephone. We barely had a radio. And that was only listened to on the weekends and special occasions. So I thought it was a great way to grow up. I loved school and I loved church activity and my granddad's church. So I thought it was great to grow up in such a cradle of love. I thought of it as a cradle of love. And I still think of it that way. I'm grateful for my childhood.
Okay. Looking at your bio as well, you grew up in obviously a very musical family. Willadine, is that how you say her name? Willadine?
Willadine.
Okay. Cassie.
Cassie.
Cassie. Okay, Cassie. Your brother, and condolences about your brother Randy. I saw that he passed.
I appreciate that. And we lost Floyd 2 years ago.
Okay.
And that's my two youngest brothers.
Okay. My condolences. I know you come from a musical family. The older generation partners, who was musical that you guys saw growing up, Dolly, and I know the rest of you?
Well, my granddad was a music teacher at church. He taught the old harp singing, and he also played piano and guitar and fiddle. He wasn't a great musician, but he was he was a school teacher as well as a minister. So he was a songwriter. And then my uncles and my Aunt Dorothy Jo and my mom and Daddy's people were musical as well. So we really were influenced by both sides of that. But Appalachian people are very big on storytelling. And so when you're storytellers and you are able to put a rhyme and a melody to something, then, everybody was a songwriter. Basically, in our family, we called it making up songs. Let's go make up a song. And so even as kids, that's what we did. We thought that was just the normal activity.
Okay. moving forward a little bit, it looks like in 1967, you released your first album, In the Garden, a gospel project with your sisters and your mom. Talk about going into the studio and cutting that album.
Well, it was actually a lady had seen my mother and my sister Cassie and me singing at a funeral. And she was so touched by the harmony that we did, that mountain harmony that we did, that she offered to finance a gospel album because she knew my mother was very religious and that my granddad was a minister. And so that's how we ended up going in the studio here in Nashville and cutting that album.
Okay. And around that time, it looked like in your bio, you moved to Washington, D.C.
It was right after my son was born. Actually, I think I was pregnant with my son when we did the album. And not long after he was born, I had an opportunity to move to Washington, D.C. in the Alexandria areas where we
I
lived.
used to live there. Okay.
Yeah. And I took a job working 2 different clubs there for a man who had, he had been a sergeant in the Army there at Fort Belvoir. And I think he, what do you call it, mustered out there.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so he had a couple of used car lots, and he had a Pizza Hut or a pizza. It was called a Pizza King, and he had go-go dancers and rock and roll music there. Down the road about 7 miles, he had a place called Hillbilly Heaven, and that's where I worked. But then I would jump in the car, and he would drive me up to the Pizza King, and the girls would get down out of the go-go cages, and then I would do a set of rock and roll or country music, whatever he wanted me to do for the Fort Belvoir soldiers that were there. So that's kind of how I started, and he became my first manager. Ironically, he later became Dan Aykroyd's father-in-law.
Huh.
And he was Donna Dixon's father.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to babysit my son
Huh.
because I lived with them for a while after we had moved there. And so I go back that far with them. And it was my first professional, gig. And I stayed there and worked for them. It was a great opportunity for me to kind of, figure out if I wanted to do that or not. So that's where I started.
Okay. How much was it a shock coming from Tennessee, moving to that area? Was it a shock at all or no?
It was a shock because I came out of the church, and a little cinder block church on a gravel road that my granddad pastored. And I had, I knew people drank beer, and my dad would come home smelling like beer sometimes, but I'd never been around anybody that drank or anything like that. And it was a big shock for me to transition into the world, as it were. And I was stunned by a lot of the things I saw, but I felt like that I could take my faith and my own set of standards of my upbringing to the people that I worked around, and I did do that all I could and continued to do that throughout my life. Not because I'm this great saint or this great Christian, because I can swear like a sailor and I can pray like a saint, and I've always been that way. And I think that's the only way to be, and to be comfortable in your own skin, regardless of what color your skin is. Just be real, just be honest.
Absolutely agree. Okay. It looks like at some point you moved back to Nashville and started your own record label, Soul, Country, and Blues, and released your first solo album, I Want to Hold You in My Dreams. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I was actually forced to start my own record label because I couldn't get a record deal here in Nashville because I was Dolly's kid sister, and no one wanted to give me the time of day. And so I ended up having to start my own record label. And Soul, Country, and Blues, if you abbreviate it, it's spells scab, which means non-union session. So I've always kind of had a sarcastic slant on everything because, where there's a will, there's a way. And so ironically, I ended up having my first hit record on my own record label when I was 24 years old, when nobody in this town would, hardly, they laughed me out of their office basically. And I went ahead and put the record out on my own label, and it, went to the top of the Billboard charts. And then the next year I was able to sign with a major label.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things I've noticed over the years, over the last couple of years, people don't talk about all the stuff that I've had to do. It's almost like they're surprised that I ever did anything at all. But, you have to take whatever opportunity comes your way. And so that's what I always tell the kids that I've worked with over the years, that I've tried to, help and develop into artists. Don't be particular about the jobs you take. Just take the job, because regardless of how much money you're making or how much prestige you think you're going to get out of it, you're going to get some experience, and you never know who's going to be sitting there in the audience that might see you, that might be the door that you've been looking to knock on.
I absolutely agree with you. I tell people that all the time. Never take an opportunity for granted. And
Exactly.
You mentioned it led to you signing a major label deal with Elektra Records, and it looks like in about 1976.
Yeah, it was a year after. In 1975 was when I had my hit album and hit record on my own label on Scab Records, and then I signed with Elektra, and I think I had 11 top 20 Billboard hits on Elektra before my contract ran out. After I was contracted to do 3 albums and a best of album, or a hits collection, which was 4 albums for them, and they didn't re-sign me because they had a changeover in the personnel at the label, and I was unfortunately not re-signed, which was devastating to me. So I ended up shopping and having to look for other labels for years. Finally, I gave up. I did a few, projects for fly-by-night record labels, independent labels that were more trouble than they were worth, basically. And then I eventually just started doing my own projects. And so far, I've had, other than those 7 albums, I've produced and released 40 albums so far. So I've been working my butt off. So,
You sure have.
So to speak.
You sure have, because like I said, doing research on it is a lot. I want to read a couple things for the viewers. Going into the 1980s and early 90s, Stella starred in several Broadway touring musicals, to include 7 Brides for 7 Brothers, that's a great one, Pump Boys and Dinettes, Best Little House in Texas, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, to name a couple. You also wrote and staged several Dollywood shows, the opening season, as well as appearing on Dukes of Hazzard. In 2006, you made appearances in 2 films, A Dance for Bethany and Ghost Town. You've been busy.
I think so far I've done 13 films. I've appeared in at least 13.
13, okay. Now, what I want to ask you off of that is, what comes more natural to you, the acting or the singing?
I love to act if it's a good, role. But I love to have that instant feedback from an audience. So I love theater and I love concert performing. I love that. I think that's more natural for me because I've done so much more of it. But acting is a different mindset to me. It's, it's a different brain place for me than singing. Because I grew up singing. I didn't grow up acting. So, but I think I'm good at acting because I know how to get into a character, and I know how to flush it out, and how to have develop a backstory, and how to do all that, because I read where your dad was, studied with Lee Strasberg, and I studied method acting myself. So, I've learned the techniques and things that you have to know and all that stuff. But I think when I first acted, my first acting job was in Dukes of Hazzard, and I was petrified. I was scared to death because I'd never done anything. And my first theater experience was starring in Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which is a difficult character to play. And, you know, I had to work with a 36-piece orchestra, had to do choreography, and a lot of it was acrobatic dancing. They had to throw me in the air in a big old dress and all kinds of stuff. So I had to learn all that on the job, which is, to me, everything I've ever done, I've had to, it's like trial by fire. So that's why at this age, I decided a few years ago, after a few things happened in my life personally, that I was going to say, what the hell? I was just going to talk about anything I wanted to and say whatever I wanted to and not wear a muzzle any longer for anybody.
Okay. That's interesting you said that. We're going to get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
But, okay. I was wondering where that came from. You answered a question further down. That's cool. As well, when I'm doing research on people, I always like finding what I call chestnuts. Now,
Yeah.
I found a clip on you, a video. You were performing a coat of a different color. Now,
Coat of many colors.
I'm sorry, coat of many colors. Your conversation with the audience about you and Dolly, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but it was you're hilarious. And you have a great rapport with your audience, but talking about something with a circle, I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, peeing in the bed.
Yep.
But, you know, she used to say that in her show. She would say, you know, some of us peed in the bed, but I didn't. And so I decided I would just make up my own banter about it. But thank you for saying I'm hilarious, because to me, that's how I really have gotten by in my career all these years, because I am funny and I know how to, you know, have these one-line quips and how to be sarcastic and how not to take myself so serious or anyone else. But I think I have quick, you know, good timing. I'm not trying to be funny right now, but because I, you know, my personality is very paradoxical. I can be very, very serious, and then I can be very, very, you know, sarcastic and funny, which is what I've relied on in my career to get by, is to entertain people. Well, I don't know how you can entertain people unless you're an acrobat or something, or a pole dancer, unless you're just funny as hell. And I've always been able to be funny as hell. And, you know, part of that was out of absolute terror, because it's like sometimes you walk out in an audience, they can scare the hell out of you, and you better be able to get them on your side in a second. I'm talking about 2 or 3 bars into a song. You better be making them happy or you're going to get booed. And so I didn't, you know, want that to happen. So I would start laughing at myself and everybody else too. And before it was over, everybody was having as good a time as I was having.
Yeah, that clip is hilarious. And it's one other thing that I noticed with you is when you sat down to sing and you said, oh, my dress is shorter than I thought it was. And you were sitting down and you got the guitar. But I also looked at the rapport that you had with your band and the way you talk to them, because I've seen artists that aren't the nicest to their players. And I've met some that are just as kind as can be. And I'm into the kindness side. But I also saw the rapport that you had with them. So you had that rapport with the audience who thought you were hilarious. I did too. I watched it a couple of times because I was just cracking up. And I could picture the banter between you and Dolly about that, because when you said she put you at a concert and she had you like up front or something like that. But just the way you told the story.
Yeah.
The way you told the story.
Well, she's funny. You know, we grew up just being funny. You know, it's better than crying. You know, we might as well laugh. It's a lot more fun. But you said you mentioned how I had a rapport with my band. Well, I've always treated my band members or people that work for me, just because they work for me, I don't think of it that way. I always think that they work with me. And I've always treated people more like family, even though my name is at the bottom of their weekly check. They're still family to me, because, you know, your road family or your, you know, professional family, if you can't love the people that work for you and respect them that way, how can you expect them to love you back? They might do their job, but then there's no warmth and there's no love and respect. And I'm going to respect people because that's my natural nature. And I want to be respected, and I'm going to treat people exactly how I want them to treat me. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but you do your best. And I've always loved everybody that's ever worked for me. And if they weren't lovable, then I got rid of their asses pretty quick. Because I don't want blood on the tracks in the studio, so to speak.
Right.
And I don't want to be insulted or feel insecure before I go before the camera or walk out on stage, because everybody's a stranger but the people that are with me. So if you can't build me up, by damn, you ain't going to stay around if you're going to tear me down before I have to, be a racehorse and go out and do, run the track.
Okay.
That's like having a racehorse, and beating it over the back before you put it, in the chute to send it out on the track. How you expect it to do its job? That's the same the way I feel about entertainers. We're just racehorses. Just send us out there, but feed us well, and make sure we're taken care of, and then we'll bring in the money. We'll bring it home for you.
There you go. Another chestnut that I found was a 2016 duet, and I think you co-wrote it with Dolly. More Power to You.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, she came over to spend the night, and we were having a sister night, and we decided we'd write something. And we tell each other sometimes what our projects are, and we're both prone to say, "Oh, more power to you," "Oh, well, that's a good one, more power to you." So we started laughing about it because I think we were drinking some wine, and we were probably making fun of ourselves. And so I think that's where we wrote the song. It was kind of that's what inspired it. Probably a bottle of wine.
Okay. Okay. What I want to segue into a little bit is your social work. I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You devote much of your time to causes such as domestic violence, and you teach, or you taught, at the New Opportunity School for Women at, how do you say it, Berea College?
Berea College in Berea, Kentucky. I used to teach there quite often at the New Opportunity School for Women.
Okay.
And I have taught, it's a workshop that I developed from a lot of the training that I have under my belt over the years.
Okay. And it looked like you were knowledge of hair and makeup and helping women build their self-esteem.
Right. I was trained as a cosmetologist, so I know a lot about hair and a lot about makeup, and I've always had to dress myself, and I've never made bukus of money, so I didn't have people to do that for me, stylists and hairdressers and makeup artists and all these people, that were on staff to do that. I've always had to do all that for myself, and still do that. I have one person that helps me, select jewelry and color that I might wear that day or something. But I do my own hair and makeup and pick my own wardrobe, and I've always done that from thrift stores. A lot of my wardrobe and stuff has come from thrift stores over the years, because other people wouldn't walk in with my outfit on that they got at Nordstrom's or Macy's or something. And I've seen a lot of people at different functions that walk in and you saw that dress on the rack at Macy's. Well, you're not going to see my stuff that way. I will customize things that I bought, because I also am a seamstress, or I was trained as a seamstress. So I know how to, add to things or take things off and put something else on. And to me, that's a creative process, as well as the singing and the writing and the acting and the producing and all that. So that's all, to me, part of it. And so I developed this program called Beauty on a Budget and Self-Esteem is Free. And what I do is go in and teach like this weekend workshop from Friday night till Sunday. Teach women how to do their hair, how to do their makeup. We work with their self-esteem and all that. We even do a runway program on Sunday before we finish. And it's a beautiful development, series that I've taught for years. And I did a lot of that when I was spokesperson for the Christian Appalachian Project, which no one seems to have picked up in any of my bio material. But
I actually was going to talk about that next, but go ahead.
Okay. But anyway, I've just tried to always go out and inspire people, especially women, because women, to me, have always been second to, I don't mean second class, because I think we're all queens. As a matter of fact, I think I'm queen. I've always known I was a queen. And I had a real problem with being treated like a second class citizen by the time I was 5 years old, when my brothers would get the best piece of chicken at Sunday dinner. Just because I was smaller didn't mean I didn't want that chicken breast, you know. I want that. So I thought, now what's going on here? Something's wrong with this picture. But anyway, I've always tried to build up women. And there's nothing that upsets me more than to see women attacking one another. That is so unfeminine and so unloving and so damaging. And I've spent most of my life always defending the underdog, because I know what it feels like to be an underdog. I know what it feels like from a female point of view, from a sister point of view, from being growing up in a poor family, in a Pentecostal family, in an Appalachian family, and all the things that go with that, and then being a woman in this industry and having to deal with the good old boy mentality here in Nashville in country music. So I know what it feels like to be an underdog. And I've always taken up for the underdog. And that's why I've developed this program to try to say, if I can do better, so can you. I didn't come from anything, and nobody was handing me anything, and nobody was opening doors for me. As a matter of fact, they'd slam them in my face if they could get away with it, and continue to do it today. But you have to stand up for yourself, and you have to value yourself. Here I am preaching and teaching on your show, but that's how I feel about it. And I have no patience and no tolerance for people who are born into privilege and then spew hate on all of us.
Oh,
That's
really? You mean like the former guy?
The former guy and all of his bullshit.
Well, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to it, Stella.
That's one of the things that made me become so vocal and so active on social media. Not that I wanted to. I was happy to go around doing my workshops, speaking at battered women's shelters and all this and all that. But once I had these platforms and I saw all this hate and all this, people attacking me over nothing, that didn't even know me and would never know me, and I didn't care to know them either. I just couldn't believe that so much hate was being spewed all over Facebook and all these different platforms. I don't go into these chat rooms, never have, and all that stuff. But I couldn't believe this stuff was going on. And then people elect a president with that kind of mindset and that kind of behavior in America. And I'm thinking to myself, by damn, I've always paid my taxes. Mm-hmm. And that SOB never paid his taxes. Mm-hmm. And he gets up and he says the horrible things he says about people, and people cheer him for it. Mm-hmm. Now, this country is sick in its mind and its soul right now. We are soul sick in this country. This pandemic, as far as I'm concerned, is a spiritual attack on us as a people around the world, that we're killing people because they look different than us, or they're a different gender, or they're a different sexual persuasion than us, or a different skin color, or this or that or the other. And we think that's okay. Well, let God take care of it. He'll just throw a pandemic down on us and, take a bunch of people out. So when are we going to get our brains straight? When are we going to get our hearts straight here? What in the world are we going to do with ourselves if we're going to hate each other to death? I mean, we might as well just die and get on out here if that's the way we think we're going to, accomplish anything. So I got really upset, especially got upset when I saw Ashley Judd and Rose McCowan and a couple of those little girls, I call them little girls because they are little girls to me, coming forth during the Me Too movement. And I've been through all that stuff. I've been sexually assaulted. I've been raped. I've been taken out of the country, kidnapped and taken out of the country. I had a baby to raise. I couldn't fall into depression and, let it ruin me. I had to take care of myself so I could raise and take care of my child. Okay? I didn't have time to grieve over the abuse and the crap that happened to me. But when I saw this was continuing to happen with Weinstein and all this stuff, I just went, it just kind of exploded within me. And then we had a big sexual scandal here in Nashville with someone we all know. And it was just, and no one was saying anything, not my peer group, not the country music people, not even my sister. Everybody was standing back and said, well, maybe it'll blow over and all that. And I was the only person that had a name of any kind that was really saying much of anything. And I knew this person because he'd abused me, and I'd said very little because of my sister. And I thought, damn it, I'm not going to do that anymore for her or anybody. And I'm going to speak out. And then on top of that, then we have the pile-on of the former guy. And he starts all his bull. And then we have that to deal with. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's high time that people start to get real. Mm-hmm. And people start to tell the truth. And if you can't tell the truth, then, as my mother used to say, go crawl in a hole and pull it in after you. Well, I don't want to crawl in a hole, and I'm not going to pull it in after me. I'm going to speak as loud as I can. And if I get angry, I'll just go ahead and get angry. And if anybody's got a problem with it, then so be it.
Okay.
Excuse me for getting on my high horse.
No.
That's how I feel about it.
We're actually we're going to get back on your high horse in a minute, because that was another part. Everything you just said, I agree with. Something just came up when you were saying about you were a cosmetologist, because I didn't see that in your research. Just out of curiosity, didn't Dolly play a cosmetologist in Steel Magnolias? I bet you helped her with that role, didn't you?
Well,
exactly.
Well, what you gonna do? You're gonna do what you need to do.
Okay. Also, you had mentioned, I was going to mention it, you talked about it, but I had it in my notes. As well, you served as the national spokesperson for Mothers Against Drunk Driving and the Christian Appellation Project, and national honorary country music ambassador to the American Cancer Society. Yet one more thing that I found about you, that make me adore you as a human being. So if you would, you talked a little bit about the Christian Appellation Project. How long were you with the Mothers Against Drunk Driving?
I served as their spokesperson in their 10th year. And one of the pinnacles of success for me was to be able to be invited to the nation's capital and to sing a song that I had written for them. And the song is called We're in It for Lives. And all the Congress, everybody was out there on the steps of the nation's capital. And I stood there with the wind blowing in my hair and my white silk dress and sang that song. And I thought, I started off down here. My son was just starting college at the time. And I had started off down there in Fort Belvoir, Virginia at Hillbilly Heaven, a little beer joint on the side of the highway. And then here I am.
I know exactly where it is. I know where the building is because I lived in that area, and I used to go to Fort Belvoir. Yeah, I used to shop at the commissary there because I'm ex-military. So go ahead.
Yes, I know. So, and I sang that song on the steps of the Capitol with all of them there. And I thought, look how far we can come as Americans. And I'm proud to be an American citizen. I'm proud to be a female American because we at least have the opportunity to do whatever we can have the strength to, accomplish. And we have that freedom. We have to fight for it more than men do. And I can't imagine what it must be like. I mean, I'm grieved today knowing that 6 or 7 Asian American women were murdered because somebody, I don't even want to start crying because I don't want to mess up my makeup, were murdered because somebody had a freaking bad day.
Yeah. I know.
Are you kidding me?
I know. I saw you go after her too.
And the first thing they're going to do now, his lawyer's going to plead mental illness or some crap like that. People are not expendable. And women are not, expendable. Children are not expendable. Black people are not expendable. What in the hell is wrong with this country if we're going to act this way? And then we're going to have people, like Sharon Osbourne and these people attack their peers on a TV show over something that they had no business even talking about, quite frankly, if they can't do anything with some respect. Do you know how much courage and strength it took a pregnant woman to get up and be interviewed and to say the things that she said, and then for them to demonize her? I was horrified by that. I am so angry at this kind of mentality that has been developed in this country. Nothing but smut and garbage is what's being spewed out on us daily. There's no wonder people have lost their minds and they just are feeding off of hate.
And lies.
Yeah, we have to figure out a way to get back to goodness and kindness. If we can't do that, then, we're lost. We are completely lost. I don't care what religion you decide you are. I mean, forget about the evangelicals and those people. They have totally lost their minds. And, what happened to the soul of America? I mean, I know we're not a perfect country, but how did this happen to us? People got so intrigued with having a platform. And they can get on Facebook and they can be nasty as hell, or they can get on, Twitter and think they're clever and they're cute. And then they can get in these chat rooms and go off and all these dark web crap. I don't even know what it is. I've never done it. But they can start to feel some sort of power because they can destroy other people's lives with their hate spewing on everyone. Something has to change. And I think Mark Zuckerberg and all these people like this that own these platforms, and they're using us.
Yes, they are.
To pump their, billions. And they're allowing this to go on. Now, if they can black out Donald Trump over that insurrection, they let that happen before they stopped him.
Exactly.
Now, if they can do that, then they can clean off this stuff. They can clean it off.
They don't
because
want to. They don't want to, Stella.
There's
Because
too
it's
much money in it.
Yes.
The greed is destroying our society. And I'm not talking just about America. I'm talking about America because this is my country. I pay taxes here. I have never not paid my taxes. I've never been arrested. I don't do drugs. I don't, you won't catch me on the highway and the police catch me. They might catch me for speeding. That'd be about it. But they won't find anything in my car. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I feel like I have a right to speak after 7 decades of, living. I can speak.
Oh, I admire you. And that's what I want to talk about. Let's get into your tweets. But first, before I talk about that, I want you to know how I became aware of your tweets. Somebody sent me a direct message on Twitter and said, Brad, you need to go and check out Stella Parton's page because you guys sound like twins. Like you told somebody you're God, you're talking about Blackburn. I think you're senator from Tennessee. Because I tell people all the time, he's your orange God. You have more respect for Trump than you do for for Jesus Christ. And it just blows my mind. But I commend you. And when I went and looked at your tweets, I was like, I got to have you on my show because you're so outspoken. And I think you're one of those people that has a platform and you're on the right, like my father was, God rest his soul. You're on the right side of history. You speak your mind. I don't care if you use however you say it. Because
I'm going to use profanity because sometimes that's the only thing.
No, Stella, I use it all the time. But the profanity, if the person doesn't get the message and all they hear is the profanity, then they didn't want to hear the message in the first place. Because
exactly.
A four-letter word isn't going to throw anything off of what you're saying. But when I want to talk about your tweets. Today alone, I want to read it for the viewers. If you don't know, you need to go and follow her on Twitter. And this one I read to Debbie over breakfast, and Debbie said, boy, does that sound like you, Brad. You said to Marsha Blackburn, and I'm gonna read exactly what you said. Marsha Blackburn deflects over on the Biden administration about the source of virus after we witnessed 8 people murdered this week by a white guy who just had a bad day. Marsha Blackburn put the blame where it belongs, on your God, the hashtag former guy.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about the former guy a little bit, because you and I, we're on the same sheet of paper. I've never seen I'll be 53 next month on April 18th, did 20 years and 28 days in the military, worked for 4 commander-in-chiefs, 3 were Republicans, 1 was a Democrat. Didn't always agree with all of their policies, but I respected every one of them.
Yeah.
On January 20th, 2017, when that loser went in the White House, I called it the QVC house because he was selling stuff out of it and doing pitches with the My Pillow guy and everybody, Goya and everybody else. Like you, I was enraged. I'm not really a political person. People think I'm the most political person. I'm not, but he
Neither am
enraged
I.
me. Right. And he, like you, he enraged me as an American, as a serviceman when he called us loser and suckers, but he enraged me for that. He enraged me when he attacked Senator McCain, and that should have ended his campaign right there. But for whatever reason, we're in a different place in America. Do I love this country? It's got a lot of work to do.
We're a sick country.
We are a sick country. We are. And, you know, and they want to say, oh, you're not patriotic. Oh, no, to the contrary, to the people that would attack me that haven't even served in the Salvation Army, let alone the United States Army, who want to get on a platform, like you said, and talk about the military when they know nothing about it. That's my area. Like, you know, music and you know songwriting. I know the military. I gave part of my life to the military voluntarily. But your tweets, I admire you and I respect you for it because you don't have to do it. And I know, and where I want to go with that is,
well, it's not pleasant, let me tell you.
oh, I know it's not.
Insults I get.
I can imagine, but I would assume too, where you're at in the country, whether your circle is not, but business, I would think with some stuff, people kind of back away from you now because you speak your mind. Am I right or wrong?
I would say that I have been totally blacked out in Nashville in the music community.
Yeah.
But you know what? I haven't lost any sleep on it at all. Not a bit.
Okay.
Because I can look myself in the mirror and say, at least I've told the truth as I know it.
And I agree. The other thing I want to talk about that you call out, which I love you for, is the hypocrisy in religion. And I believe in God, for the record, but I have a hard time today with organized religion, and I have a hard time with people that call themselves Christians and then spew the most evil things and support Trump. Okay, you know, the policies, which were horrible under him, but previous Republicans, I could deal with policies. I could debate if I knew something about it, but not the evil vitriol of Trump. But I want to talk about this. So you had said the churches in America did not condemn the insurrection, but quickly had their hands out for the Biden's administration's stimulus checks.
Marsha Blackburn as well.
You're right. Some pastors going so far as to ask congregants to give their checks to their ministries. And you said this is shameful. I was like, if I could have high-fived you through the screen, I would have high-fived you. But
it is shameful.
It is shameful, and they should lose their tax deduction for that because they shouldn't be tax deductible because they've gotten into politics now.
Well, they should have been taxed anyway. They should have always been taxed, but they definitely, that needs to change, especially with these churches that are making millions of dollars. Any church that makes over, say, like $350,000 a year should have to pay taxes on it. Of course, they'll find a way to cheat, just like they all do. And it's like using these false prophecies. How did that work out for them in this last election? I kind of laughed to myself because I thought they all deserve exactly what happened to them. And the reason I feel qualified to speak on this is because I grew up in my granddad's church. I have been a Bible reader since I was 10 years old, every day since I was 10 years old. That's 61, almost 62 years now. I've studied and earned a doctorate in comparative religions and, you know, all that stuff myself. So I know about what I'm talking about. And I have appeared on Trinity Broadcasting with all these people. I'm not going to give a certain individual any, free publicity on your show. But anyway, I have enough information and enough knowledge to be able to speak on this in a knowledgeable way. I know the scripture enough to be able to do that. I didn't just memorize some homiletics so I could get up and spew this stuff like some of these people have done. And I know them. I know, like, poor Jim Baker. I went up to, when he got out of prison for all of his mess, I went up and, because scripture says when you see a brother overtaken in a fault, you're supposed to help them up. And so I went up to Missouri and did his TV show. I was never so stunned in all my life. He had spent time in prison, and he still is the most arrogant person I've ever seen. He now sells gruel in buckets as survival stuff for the, what do you call it? The apocalypse.
Yeah, zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, he is out of his mind because he should have been a decorator and stayed out of the church. What is wrong with these people? I've never seen anything like it, but I went up and tried to help him, and he ended up insulting me, and me trying to, encourage him after he got out of prison. I did do that. And that's
a Christian thing to do. That was a Christian thing to do.
Well, I thought it was, but I thought, but you can throw your pearls before swine. The scripture says, cast not thy pearls before swine, lest they turn again and rend you, So you're not supposed, when you see someone that is going to harm you, don't continue to help them. Just stay away from them. Well, and scripture also says, stand and see the salvation of the Lord. And sometimes I think about that when I am speaking so, I'm so vocal about so much that is just wrong. But I think if we don't speak now, when are we going to be held accountable for that? I think I'll be held accountable if I know better and don't say anything.
Amen.
If you know better and you don't do anything, then you're just as guilty as those who are spewing this hate and murdering people and stealing from the needy and harming women and all this stuff. You're just as evil as the people who are committing these crimes by being silent.
I agree. Well, look, somebody that you probably met or been around, and he's deceased now, Billy Graham. I always respected Billy Graham. There's nothing that I know of him that would make me, unless somebody proved factual, that he was anything but a decent man. But look at his son, Franklin. Franklin is like insane behind Trump. I don't honestly believe that Billy Graham would go down the road with Trump. But Franklin Graham has bought in, and Jim, you mentioned Jim Baker. Jim Baker is with Trump. I don't understand how anybody preaching religion would be with Trump.
I think they have been infected by power.
Yes.
It's like power has infected whatever they started out to do. Of course, Franklin Graham was handed everything, even Samaritan's Purse. He was handed that because I read his book, Rebel with a Cause, and all that. He was just a butthole his whole life, excuse me, but he's a little jerk. He was always a little jerk and a rebel against his dad's work. And then they straightened him out and then handed him off that big, organizations, Samaritan's Purse and all that. He acts like he did something. He didn't do anything but step right into it.
Like Donald Trump.
But the hypocrisy of the whole Southern Baptist thing, his sister, Billy Graham's daughter, I think it was Ann Graham Lotz, his sister is also a minister and a speaker. I read her book, and she was talking about being at one of the Baptist conventions and how after she'd gone through a divorce, I think it was, I'm not exactly sure exactly what the experience was, but all of those old men preachers turned their chairs around while she spoke. Now, this is Billy Graham's daughter. If nothing else, they should have sat there and shown her respect, out of respect for him. But that was because she was a female, for one thing. And that's what we're dealing with here. And so the Christian thing has got to be cleaned up. And to me, I'm horrified by it because I believe in interfaith. I'm more of what I would call an interfaith person because I believe in all religions. Because as I was studying for my doctorate, comparative religions, all religions are trying to go to the same thing. We're trying to get to divinity. We're trying to get to love. And all religions do that. Just like all people are trying to be loved and be accepted. People would listen to what Jesus said. They would know that. They would absolutely know that.
I agree. Let me take you in another direction, second part. These are just fun, random questions. Whatever.
I don't mean to preach here, but I don't know what your platform is, so I'll just go ahead and say whatever. You can edit it out.
No, you can say whatever you want. This is America, and that's our right to speak out.
We better speak while we still can.
Exactly. Before it becomes a third world country. Okay. More fun questions. What is your favorite genre of movies?
You're going to find this surprising. I don't watch a lot of movies.
Okay.
I'm not a movie buff. I never have been. I'm too hyperactive to sit down and hardly watch a movie. But if I'm going to watch a movie, probably a romantic comedy would probably be something I would.
Okay. Who is your favorite musical band?
Dire Straits.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, I like Mark Knopfler. I just think he's got a unique sound on his voice, but also his guitar work is I just love the sound of his guitar work, and I love that band. And the sarcasm that comes with it.
Yep. You're the first one to pick Dire Straits. I love Dire Straits. Great choice. Okay. Do you have a favorite concert that you've ever seen?
I think two that I would like to.
Okay.
Ray Price is the best country concert I ever saw. It was so impeccably perfect. Note perfect from not only him, but the musicians. And every song was just phenomenal. A consummate performer and professional. And my other favorite, and I'm not a huge fan, not that I don't like him, but I'm not a huge fan, was Elton John. I thought it was impeccable. And I've seen Michael Jackson and all of them, but I would say Elton John. And I know that's a broad,
I love it. Ray Price sings everything is beautiful, right?
No, that's Ray Stevens.
Oh, Ray Stevens. Okay.
Ray Price is a Texas, basically a Texas-based artist, an older artist.
Okay.
And a lot of his music was Texas, music.
Okay. With you being a musician and a singer and a songwriter, if you setting a table for a romantic dinner, who would you put on it here?
I'd probably put Spanish music on.
Okay.
But it would most likely be instrumental music.
Okay.
Because I'm a singer, I don't listen to a lot of singers. Because I'm listening to how they sing instead of the music, and I listen to classical music a lot.
Okay. And that's interesting because most of the singers that I interview and ask that question, they say the same thing. I put on jazz. I don't want to hear anything because I'll be critiquing it in my head. He didn't hit that note. She should have had this bridge or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And if you produce records, which I do, that is another thing that interferes with your enjoyment of the music because you're listening to the production. I listen to a lot of jazz as well.
Okay. Do you have a favorite solo artist, male singer that you enjoy?
Well, I really like, always liked Don Williams.
Okay.
He's a country artist, and I just love the mellow tone of his voice and how it was effortless for him to sing in such a pure way. It doesn't get in your face. I'd say probably that would be one of my favorites.
Okay. Now flip that. Favorite female singer?
Probably today, in modern music, I would have to say that Trisha Yearwood is probably one of the best vocalists, technically and emotionally. She knows how to deliver a song without over emoting. A lot of women, I think, well, especially women I know, they got into this thing of over emoting, and instead of getting into the song, they started to sing like they were in love with their own voice, and I just can't stand that.
Okay.
And I think they got that way because Whitney Houston was so great that they were all trying to catch her, like trying to be that good. She was a natural, just like Muhammad Ali was a natural. You can't necessarily catch up with that, and you shouldn't even try to. And so for me, it has to be somebody that is a natural, like Trisha Yearwood.
Okay.
She does it for me.
Gotcha. Favorite noise or sound you like to hear?
Birds.
Okay. Now flip it. Least favorite noise or sound?
Construction noise,
Okay.
like big trucks and all this machinery. I can't stand that sound.
Okay. Do you have a favorite food?
Potatoes.
Okay. Okay. Any type of
I've never.
potato?
I'm like Will Rogers. I've never seen a potato I didn't like.
I love it. It's so funny. Okay. Now cap the dinner off, the potato. What's your favorite dessert?
I'm not a sweet eater. I consider myself sugar blind. If it's got sugar in it, it's just sweet. I don't care if it's banana pudding or chocolate cake. Probably a little bit of sherbet, like a lime sherbet maybe, would be my favorite dessert.
Okay. If you were to hit the lottery for the $200, $300, $400 million lottery tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would do?
Well, I think I'd make sure that my son and daughter-in-law and grandson were okay for life. And then I would donate the money to St. Jude's Children's Hospital, all of it that was left over, because I think they do some of the most consistently great work of any, place in the world.
Okay.
So St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
All right. Pre-COVID, favorite vacation destination?
I'm not a big beach person. I like the mountains. But for me, because I've always traveled so much, my favorite vacation is home. So I've been on vacation this whole time.
Okay. Fair
Yeah,
answer.
home is my favorite place.
Okay. Stella, if you could meet one person from any time in history, dead or alive, any walk of life, who would you like to meet, and what would your first question be for them?
Jesus. And I'd say, what took you so long? What took you so long?
Okay. If you had to sum yourself up in a few thoughts as a human being, what would you say?
I'd say I'm very simple and very sincere and very sarcastic. I'm simple, sincere, and sarcastic.
The three
That's
S's.
Yeah.
The three S's. Okay. you've been in the business a very long time. You've done a lot of interviews, shows, and so on. Has there ever been one question that an interviewer has not asked you and you wish that they had? And if so, what's the question? What's the answer?
Gosh, I've been asked so many strange questions, but a lot of repetitive questions. And I've spent a lot of time trying to answer those repetitive questions as fresh as I could, you know, so I didn't just keep saying the same thing over because it's the same question. Probably a good question to ask me is, do I really like people?
Okay. And the answer is?
I really do love people. That's the only reason I've been able to continue to do what I do as long as I have, because maybe I can sing, say, or, you know, do something to give people a little bit of hope.
Okay.
That's my, you know, goal anyway.
Okay. And finally, I always close out on the question of, do you have a saying? And if so, what is it that you live your life by?
Be true to myself. Be true to myself. Don't worry about what other people think of you. Just be true to yourself.
Okay. If you were for the viewers, tell them your different social media platforms, website, all of that. Put that out, please.
StellaParton.com. I'm on Twitter. I think it's official, isn't it? It's just Stella Parton. Twitter is just that. And I think my Instagram is official, isn't it? Okay. Yeah, Michael says it's official. You can see I don't pay much attention to what
It's
is
okay.
what. But anyway, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, I'd like to close like this. Like I told you earlier, I think you're a true humanitarian. I personally appreciate the fact that you use your voice, because it comes at a cost. When we do,
It does?
when we speak out, I get hit too. When we speak out, because it's the right thing to do, because humanity is more important than all the other BS out there, the politics and whoever is in the White House, even though I have much respect for President Biden. That's why
Oh, I
have
do
President
too.
Biden and Vice President Harris. I have the utmost respect for them. But humanity comes first. And I appreciate that you use your voice at a cost, like my father did many years before, and speak out, because it's the right thing to do. I personally think that you're on the right side of history. I admire you for it. I adore you for it. You're hilarious as all outdoors, which I even like you even more now. But thank you. My viewers and my followers, a lot of them follow you now because they like what you're putting out, because they know it's the truth. There's nothing to gain by what you're saying. It could only hurt you, to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
that's the way, but it's the right thing to do. So I appreciate that. And I want you to know that I appreciate what you give back, Stella, to humanity, because that to me is the most important thing. And the final analysis is, I feel God put us on earth to make a mark in whatever way it is, big or small. And you've done that, and you continue to do that. And I appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Brad. I think if we can just try to attempt to be messengers of hope, no matter how sarcastic I am, that's my goal, is to leave the world a little better than I found it, not take more than, you know, I need, and to give as much as I'm able.
And I agree. As I tell all my guests, you're all special to me in all different ways. You have access to me now. If you want to come back on, you got a project, or you just want to get something off of your chest, you tell Michael to hit me up, and we'll get you back on anytime you want.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate being with you today. Thanks
Same
for
here.
reaching out.
Absolutely. You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, folks, that was another episode of the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show in the can. Forget about it. Stella Parton. Is that humanity? Did I tell you that she was going to bring that to the show? I knew that from her tweets. And look what she said. She's not going to no longer not speak out, because that's what Trump did to people. You might have spoken out before. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you spoke out every once in a while. But that's what evil people like Trump does, and this Republican Party. when they go against your country that you love. See, she didn't say she didn't love the country, but the country is very sick, and it needs to find its soul. It truly does, like President Biden said. But that's the diversity we bring you on the Bad Red Berkwitt Show. Singer, songwriter, actress, stage, humanitarian. Above all those credits, which she has many, I'm most impressed with humanitarian because it comes at a cost. You heard what she said. It comes at a cost to me too. People think, oh, you speak out. There's a cost. It comes at a cost, but that's the only way I know how to be because that's the way my father raised me. So on my show, I'm always going to speak out because it's my show and I have a platform to do that. And if it helps one person from the LGBTQ community or a person of color or a woman or a man or anybody, if it helps you out, then you know what? I did what's called a mitzvah. It's a Yiddish word, a blessing. And that's how I feel. Again, Stella Parton, check out all of her social media platforms and follow her on Twitter because I certainly do. She speaks it like she feels it. And if she throws a extra 4-letter word in there from time to time, like I throw many, and that's all you get, then you didn't care about her message in the first place. All right, folks. I'm going to close out. Remind you, hit that button, whatever corner to, and subscribe. Leave your comments below. Let's have a conversation. Forget about it. And on that note, remember, and I truly do mean it when I say it every time I close my show, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. Bad Brad out.